Today on CityCast Las Vegas, Nevada Current reporter Michael M.J. Lyle helps us detail how Trump's budget cuts are putting Southern Nevada's outdoor recreation economy at risk. NPR's regional reporter in the Mountain West News Bureau, Yvette Fernandez, also joins us to explain why our schools are using flock cameras. And did you guys know there's a Pastri World Cup? Well, yeah, apparently there is, and a Las Vegas chef helped Team USA clinch a spot in it, which got us thinking about our favorite pastries around town. But before we dive into all of that, MJ, Yvette, did you guys see that the Golden Nugget added 3 dice Yahtzee to its offering of games? That seems pretty wild to me, and it got us to thinking here at CityCast, if you could bring any classic children's game to a casino, what would it be and why?
Maybe Battleship.
Oh, that's a good
I like
one.
that. I hadn't thought about that. That's a good one.
never
Yeah.
thought
That
about
was
that
always
either.
that was always fun. I mean, sure, there's the classics, like Monopoly.
Yeah.
There's,
Yeah, that's
they're
my pick.
forever, but and Scrabble and all of that stuff. I like playing Scrabble. Like we play bilingual Scrabble, or
Oh.
or sometimes we play Scrabble with what's the word I'm looking for? Like slang is what I'm saying.
like slang phrases, things
slang
like that.
phrases,
Yeah, yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So bilingual and slang. That really adds a lot of dimension to it.
Battleship is so much fun. That would be
Yeah,
a fun
Battleship's a really
game.
good one.
I was thinking my favorite game is like Clue, but I can't think of how that could like equate to a gaming. I guess like if you guess wrong, it like diminishes your money. You guess right, like you or like how many moves you can do it in to get to the guess. Like
That, like turn
determine
into a
the plot,
fully
yeah.
immersive experience. Like, I think that'd be really cool. Yeah.
But if not that, maybe Uno, because I loved Uno too, and
Yeah.
and that could be cutthroat too. So
It really could be. Uno gets wild. And that was why my pick, though, is Monopoly. One, because like I enjoy chaos and it goes on forever. And
I enjoy
casinos
chaos.
are already trying to
Yes.
keep you there forever. So like it fits. But I just like picture, I don't know if you guys, there was a Dane Cook bit when I was a kid that he used to do where he was like, everybody hates Monopoly. It always ends with somebody going like, F this game. Like, and so at a casino, like I can see it getting to that point, and I think it would be hilarious. And that's where the chaos comes in. But I do think it's also kind of weird, though. They're adding like a children's game because it's like, hey, family fun and entertainment at the casino. Let us take your money. Yeah.
Maybe they should ask this question on a prediction market app, and then they can get
my
to find
gosh.
out,
Paging
what people
Kalshi.
actually
Oh, wait,
want.
you can't use it here. So true, though. It is pretty wild. I just wonder what family game is coming next to our casinos. Just have to wait and see. In the meantime, though, guys, let's get it rolling. It's Thursday, August 27th. I'm Jesse Merrick, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. All right, guys, so we're starting off the top talking about our outdoor economy here in Las Vegas. MJ, can you give us the deets on how much the Trump budget cuts are hurting our economy in an outdoor sense?
yeah, for starters, did you know that Southern Nevada outdoor recreation economy is a $24 billion industry? Like
Yeah, that was a
it's
shocking
wild.
number
Like,
for me.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, this comes from reporting from the Las Vegas Review Journal, but yeah, 13.7 billion of it is in economic output. Plus, it supports about 75,000 jobs here too, and
It's a lot of jobs.
It's a lot of jobs. It's a lot of economic stimulus that's coming from from outdoor tourism.
Yeah.
But yeah,
By the way,
there's-
just to butt in, way more than
Yeah.
data centers, and it seems like the Trump administrations get behind those. So what the hell, Just an
there's got to protect some billionaires
Yeah.
as an aside. But yes, but there are a lot of cuts to. There's been so much slashing of federal budgets. We're talking about things like U.S. Forest Services, National Park Services, the Bureau of Land Management. There's been all these cuts to the budgets for these. And so what that means is basic things like maintenance and trail upkeep and making sure that litter is not going everywhere on these trails that people are using. Like they can't do that, let alone everything else about promotion and making sure these trails are thriving. And so these cuts are actually trickling down and making it just these beautiful things of our now outdoor resources and recreation areas like less and less able to maintain in the way that they traditionally have. And I will say, like, we're seeing like kind of on a side, because we've seen all these wildfires over the summer, like, and part of that, again, like, cuts to U.S. Forest Services, like they're saying because of lack of firefighters from that budget, like they're unable to keep up with the sheer number of fires. And so these cuts are having like drastic effects. Sometimes are very harmful, sometimes are harmful to our economy. And so we're seeing just the results of just kind of not really thinking through what these cuts will actually mean on a day-to-day level.
Yeah, no, and I think that's an important thing to flag in there just because of like when the brush gets overgrown and God forbid a fire does come around. I mean, it is literally lighter fluid for these types of things. But just even kind of moving it home a little further too, like MJ, you noted in terms of the things that people will visually see, but Yvette, like, do we have an idea of like, will this lead to closures and things like that for like people not being able to do things anymore? Like, is there potential for that?
Well, I think one area that is kind of overlooked when it comes to outdoor recreation, especially in this area, is recreation related to water. Now, we all know about the water impact here and the drought, et cetera. This just came up the other day. I ended up meeting up with a representative, Congresswoman Dina Titus. She was holding a roundtable discussion with outdoor recreation business leaders, right? And, they talked about a number of issues, like what MJ was just talking about, all these different policies, cuts that have affected, just different policies as it relates to outdoor recreation. But it's also, the immigration policies that have affected the two main visiting groups that come to the Las Vegas metro area, which are the visitors from Canada and visitors from Mexico.
Absolutely.
And then the drastic drop in water levels has impacted water sports. And I know it's something that most people don't associate with the desert, but water sports are a big draw here.
I can't imagine being like in the Visitors Authority's shoes and being like trying to promote all these recreational things that people can do, but then they're not maintained, or like the cuts that they're facing are just making it less appealing and less attracting for people to actually partake in.
Yeah, some of the things that they come to Las Vegas and then they head out to Hoover Dam, they go to Lake Mead, they go canoeing, that kind, just those things are big money for the whole area. And even, it trickles into like the gateway cities like Boulder City. Boulder City is very much dependent on that tourism dollar that helps to feed, to all those different locations. So all of it is having, just an impact that is sort of compounded one on top of the other.
Yeah, and I think that's a good move there, Yvette, just bringing up like a lot of our water resources and things like that where people go for recreation, because I think people hear Forestry Service and then don't think about like Lake Mead and places like that. And so that's the thing where I think it is a bit of a ripple effect, which brings to mind, like, I guess, what other areas are we really worried about this impacting? And like you said, the water places and things like that around the area. Are there any other spots that you're like, man, these are very high risk places that if things don't change could go in an opposite direction that's not great for us?
Well, I think the water aspect is really, really significant. And I think that's also why the state of Nevada filed the lawsuit, because as they claimed that sure, maybe the government did do some kind of an analysis, but that it failed to take into account, the economic impact to this whole area. I mean, if we sort of zoom out and look, the southern Nevada area is really the economic engine for the entire state, and draws in from so many different aspects that do all impact, tourism. So it's a big deal. I think that the water situation with the tourism situation and all the compounding factors really have an impact.
And I know this is it is an economic story, but it's so much more, like trail maintenance and making sure that we're keeping that area clean and trash not littering over. That's making sure our ecosystems and animals and everything that survive in that aren't put in harm's way. And so there's a lot of things I don't think people are really thinking about whenever we're saying we're going to cut the budget of these of BLM and forestry and national park services, and what that actually means and kind of the cascading effect of that can have.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it can impact any of the animals we've got around there. Yvette, what were you going to say?
Yeah, just, that was a big part of just that whole discussion with the Boulder City and the data center there. It's a protected tortoise, and then also a lot of us have seen, maybe people who are visiting here may not have seen, but if you just go in that area, you can actually see those large mammals. They're called called the big horn sheep.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you don't see that really in any place else. So that's really when it becomes, wow, this is an animal that does need to be protected. It's for those of us who care about things like that.
No, and it's a really important point to bring up. And I just think it underscores like that it almost feels like this administration doesn't understand, particularly here in Nevada, because obviously this is something that's going on nationwide. But in Nevada, I think like our outdoor spaces are so underrated. People think of Las Vegas as the Strip. And so many times when I leave Vegas and tell people that I live here, they ask what I love about it. I talk about all of our outdoor spaces. And they're like, wait, you guys have those there? Like, yeah. And
yes, we have a lot.
Yeah, like people don't understand that. So I think it just underscores like how underrated we are as an outdoor city / area as a whole here. And that seemingly is the disconnect with this administration, right?
Right. And even that's why we're seeing even discussions about doing away with the roadless rule. I mean, there's a lot of protections that have been in place for decades. And, now under this administration, all of them really are coming under scrutiny and are really being looked at as, do we need to make a change? And, of course, there's people on both sides of the issue. And it's like, what are these changes for? What is the purpose? And that is dividing people as to, where are we going to prioritize? Where do we put our priorities? Basically.
For anybody out there that doesn't know what the roadless rule is, it's a 2001 federal conservation policy that protects nearly 58 million acres of undeveloped national forest lands from actual road building and industrial logging and things like that coming their way.
I think there needs to be collectively a deeper dive into looking at how, as taxpayers, where our dollars are going toward, and kind of having more scrutiny towards the bigger issues that are going towards, rather than like looking at like a parks budget and saying we need to cut that and kind of the cascading effects on that. And so I think there is a lot more to discuss about us as taxpayers and what we're willing to pay for, and kind of having a better understanding of why certain dollars are going towards certain things. So
it would be great to have an opportunity to actually choose what you pay for. So say if you were, if you were able to take your dollar and say, I want to give 25 cents for parks and 25 cents for water and 25 cents for whatever it is, that you as an individual, as a citizen, have the ability to basically put your money where your mouth is, and allocate what is your priority. Because maybe your priority is a little bit different than somebody else's priority. It could be just based on age, let's just say. If you're younger, maybe you want to put those $25 to schools. And, maybe you're a little bit older, you want to put them toward hospitals.
Or maybe you don't even put towards bombs. Just saying, like, that's where our budget is going. So
yeah, at the end of the day, like allowing a choice until maybe that bucket is filled up so that other areas don't go underfunded and things like that. But I love that idea. I think that would be so cool. And I would love to see where people are actually putting their money if given that opportunity.
I think it would be really enlightening.
Las Vegas wasn't ready for Elvis Presley in 1956. Billed by his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, as the atomic-powered singer, his debut at the New Frontier met an indifferent audience. But when Elvis returned in 1969, he was ready to transform Las Vegas entertainment with a secret weapon: groundbreaking costume design. Join costume historian Karen Feder for Elvis, Dressed to Rock, a fascinating presentation tracing the thrilling evolution of the King's iconic stage wardrobe at the International Theater at Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino. This presentation is part of Duck Duck Shed 2026, the cultural experience from the Neon Museum about Las Vegas design, culture, and the city's ever-changing built environment. Admission includes a backstage tour, entry to Elvis's green room, and a tour of the stage as well. You can experience Elvis where history happened at Westgate Las Vegas. Get tickets now at duckduckshed.com.
The following is a paid political advertisement paid for by the committee to elect Alex Quagg.
Hi, CityCast listeners. I'm Alex Quagg, and I'm running for Clark County District Court Judge, Department 29. Southern Nevada is my home. I graduated from El Dorado High School and UNLV. From my first job to now raising my family, this community has shaped who I am. That's why public service is personal to me. I've spent my career serving on all sides of our justice system, representing service members in the Army, working as a prosecutor, and seeing how courtroom decisions ripple through people's lives and through our community. That's a responsibility I never take lightly. Clark County deserves judges who bring experience, dignity, and respect to every person who enters the courtroom. I'm proud to have earned the support of prosecutors, defense attorneys, law enforcement, labor unions, veterans organizations, and many others across our community. From JAG to judge, I'd be honored to earn your vote. I'm Alex Quag, running for Clark County District Court, Department 29. Learn more at electalexquag.com.
Paid for by the committee to elect Alex Quag. CityCast does not endorse candidates for office.
Yvette, you talked about giving people a choice about where their tax dollars go. A lot of tax dollars have not gone to flock cameras, but they're being donated, so we don't have a lot of say in where they go and what they're used for. So that makes this next story a bit interesting because one of those things that happens kind of behind closed doors without a lot of public input, right? And now it's seemingly infiltrating our schools.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about flock cameras before we go into that. I'm thinking, for example, flock cameras, they've become increasingly popular, but they've also become increasingly controversial. Now, they're intended, obviously, for safety, right? And as a surveillance tool, and you can see me doing air quotes with surveillance tool, it's proven to be very effective, especially for situations like, say, curtailing auto thefts and cutting down on speeding or road rage incidents. And they're proliferating. According to its website, there's like 80,000 AI-powered flock cameras across the country. But see, these automated license plate readers, they're, bringing up a lot of concerns about privacy. And it's particularly an issue when it comes to schools, because we're talking about minors here in that situation. So recently, the Nevada Independent did file a public records request about CCSD's agreement with Flock, and there seemed to be a little bit of discrepancy in what they were able to get. Basically, that Flock can access some cameras within Clark County and within Las Vegas. But the Indy also said that the school district said, quote, that neither the district nor the police department have flock cameras on any district properties or otherwise maintain any cameras. So there's still going to be some clarification that's going to come out of this as this evolves, and it is evolving. But what is clear is that the concern for many people is that, what about privacy? And in particular, when it does include minors, Jesse.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing just because I was listening to a podcast recently, where they actually talked about that, like this outcry over privacy and things like that, like how much of is it real and how much of it is people just wanting to be like upset about something? Because like the reason I bring that up is because we all use services like Uber and things like that, and like hundreds of popular apps that we use, whether it's weather tools, shopping platforms, social media, they all actively log our precise time-step location in the background while these things are running. So like it just, I wonder how we balance those two things between like surveillance with our kids and just really around town in general versus like the things we're using on a daily basis. You know what I mean?
I think that's one of the issues that comes up is that, yes, we are being followed and monitored based on what we opt in to use. But there's the key is what we opt in to use. You know, we don't get a choice when it comes to these flock cameras.
That's fair.
There is no opting in or opting out, which would open up a whole other can of worms. But we have seen also that there have been cases of misuse, when it comes to this type of accessing this type of information. We've heard about, officers using these surveillance systems to find out about the whereabouts of their ex-spouse,
not great.
And
That's not great.
Not a great either. That leads into a whole other level of, situation. But the other aspect of it is that under this current administration, the use of these cameras and that information is spreading to much broader reaches, like for immigration enforcement. And that is certainly having a big impact on just kids being able to go to school, because we know that, these off limits or sensitive areas like schools are now essentially fair game. And so the possibility of families being separated are very real concern, especially for mixed status families. So it's having a proliferating and multi-pronged effect.
Ripple effects, big time. MJ?
Yeah, I want to take a step back because a lot of people have been pointing out like maybe the selling points around safety are kind of overhyped, and there hasn't whether or not these are actually preventing people from speeding or preventing allowing them to flag active shooters, as their website has said, or
that one was interesting to me.
Yeah, if they're actually doing the things that they're claiming that they're doing. I think that's the big question right now, if they're actually doing that. So are we just giving over part of ourselves, not even giving over ourselves, this is an opt-in, our school districts and law enforcement agency kind of accepting these systems under the guise of safety without any data that shows it's actually making us safer, all the while kind of infringing on our privacy. And so there is a lot of questions about that, and the hesitance to get some of the data, and a lot of these things are happening in back rooms, outside of the public view. I think that's why people have so many questions of whether this is actually legitimate and something they can trust. And I think before the state does go forward, the legislator does need to have some type of input on what regulations and some guardrails that local districts, local law enforcement need to have before accepting these.
Yeah, and I think just to add a little more context to this part of the discussion, because the story about the Indy, awesome, great job, great reporting. It was a little vague though on what the cameras can be accessed for by CCSD. Channel 13 actually did a follow-up investigation, and they obtained a memo shared with CCSD PD on Monday that kind of lays out what the cameras should be accessed for. And it says surveillance for an assigned investigation of an assigned case, follow-up investigation of an assigned case, establishing a pattern of conduct for a suspect by documenting vehicle whereabouts, attempts to locate, identify a suspect vehicle during active investigations, and any other approved law enforcement-related reasons with an assigned case number. Now, that last one cracks the door open a little bit for some weird leeway there, but I guess the question is, are these guardrails enough? If not, is there anywhere that we can point to, out there in the ether where hey, this regulation has been in place somewhere else? Or does the data tell us anything that this is a better way to do this to create better guardrails for a system like this?
Well, here's where I'd like to sort of poke a hole in the data that we do know about, in kind of to what MJ was just talking about is, yes, there is data. There's been even, studies that were conducted talking about if you know you're going to be monitored, will that prevent you from speeding? And people say, yes, absolutely it will, because it is a deterrent for stuff like that. But where does data begin and where does a selling point end? It's sort of kind of what MJ was talking about is, yes, there's some data that helps, but there's also, this is a for-profit venture, if you will. And, millions of dollars are being spent by different municipalities as well as school districts, et cetera. So there's that aspect of it. But that's also why, because this puts us in a different arena, if you will, that we do need to find a balance. And I think that we can't just rely on the data from a study or the data from a for-profit company and the data from the accidents or the issues that take place. But we also, I think there needs to be some oversight by citizens boards, for example, or groups that do protect and look out for citizens and citizens' rights, like, say, an ACLU, something like that, to really oversee stuff like this. I think these are going to become more and more important as we move forward and as we see more and more choices that are related to AI and new technology.
And my other question to you in this is if the overall outcome that we're trying to reach, what if is school safety and safety for our children, what other investments are we willing to make as a community, as a state, to get to safety rather than just opting into a for-profit company to surveil us? Because there has been other groups and other studies about ways to make school districts in particular more safe. I did reporting over the summer, and Clark County was approving some of the recommendations that they want to see, and some of it is infrastructure of maybe adding more speed bumps or more designed to actually help curtail traffic. And so are we willing to have that conversation around investment and what we're willing to put? Or are we just kind of taking this default surveillance as kind of the only option we have to make our children and make our school districts and make our streets safer?
I think we're in a unique situation too, because like we've got Metro, which has said that they want to be the most high-tech police force in the country. And so that, I think, makes us a weird testing ground, I think, for something like this, because we've got the infrastructure built up that I think a lot of places don't, at least at the level that we do in terms of our police department.
And I remember that there was a significant investment just within the past couple of years or so by CCSD to take some safety measures like creating a single point of entry. That, is an infrastructure kind of decision. They also put in more metal detectors. That was an investment too, but I don't know what the result of those were. In your reporting, did you get to find out any more about that, Michael?
No, like it is a good question of like they have deployed Summit, but have they like my other question, I guess, talking to people is they don't feel like they've deployed all the range of options before we've kind of jumped to like the surveillance, even like going back to outside of Flock and AI generated cameras, like things like just red light speed cameras that Metro is kind of advocating for. Before we go into something like that have we actually looked at the full investments of everything that we can do, from reducing speed limits to even like investing in light rail to make sure we have other transportation systems in the city that could actually take cars off the roads and make things safer. So
and make it easier for kids to get to school too. Yeah, there's a lot of avenues to go, and I think what you're saying, MJ, is essentially like look at those other avenues that don't necessarily involve our privacy before just jumping to this one. That it brings in that question, and you could possibly avoid all the scrutiny and chaos that kind of comes along with this. Okay, so we've talked about the great outdoors. We've talked about being surveilled. Now let's talk about pastries, okay? Yes. What a way to end the show. I love it.
The true love of my life, pastry.
Yeah. This one's going to be fun. But first off, shout out to Jonathan L. Wright from the Review Journal's Neon. You guys seriously have to go read his story. The lead alone just pulls you in. He writes, "The Iceman Carveth." As soon as I read that, I was like, I'm in on this story. That just gave me chills. And I was like, oh man, I'm reading this one. But he was talking about Las Vegas pastry chef Nicholas Forte, who works for Tao Group Hospitality. And he was referencing his ice sculpting skills to fashion a raptor, yes, the dinosaur, from ice as part of Team USA's Jurassic-themed presentation at the 2026 Pastry World Cup Americas selection. Just wild that there is even a Pastry World Cup. Shocking to me when I saw that. I never noted, but I'm here for it. And their presentation featured ice and chocolate raptors, sugar triceratops, a chilled dinosaur egg dessert, dinosaur bones street food, whatever that is, and many more things. But as a kid that loved dinosaurs, I'm all for reading those things, and the pictures are insane. So like I said, you guys have to check out Jonathan's story online to see the pictures, because it's just wild. And the whole story, the visuals, everything wrapped up in there. I was enthralled by it. But thanks in part to Chef Forte of Vegas, Team USA won the gold medal in the selection round to advance to the Pastry World Cup, which will be held in none other than Lyon, France, which seems very fitting. That'll be in January, where they'll compete against the best pastry teams across the planet. And that got me thinking, if you guys had to pick a theme for your pastry team, your pastry super team, and the presentation you would give in order to win the World Cup, what would it be and why?
Literally the first thing that came to mind, and I don't know if I could do this, or I don't know if if I don't have parameters.
I believe in you, MJ.
If I don't have parameters at all.
Forget about parameters, all right?
No parameters. I actually want to do a heated rivalry pastry theme. I feel like that is an international phenomenon. Everyone loves heated rivalry. And so I want to do a pastry theme around that.
There you go.
I immediately went to my mind, it didn't go so much to the pastry itself. I was starting to think about dinosaurs, so you could make dinosaurs with pastries, and so I started spiraling into all these other visuals. But the other part that was interesting to me is I was thinking about the themes and the things and the merch that you would come up with, like T-shirts or sayings and slogans and all of that, and I think it would be really cool to have merch that would really show how global the World Cup is really like you could have like the pastry and like pastries from different countries, like pan dulce, and for the Spanish speaking community on that, or you can have like a global citizen pan dulce or something, like made with love and powered by gold, or something like that, or
awesome, yeah.
I don't know. I just think about like the visuals of it and then the little sayings that could go with it.
There are just so many ways you could take it. It's crazy. And like I like couldn't make up my mind on like any one thing because I thought of like 100 different things. And I just honestly, like I said, like I don't think you guys realize how obsessed I was with dinosaurs as a kid. So like I can't get dinosaur theme out of my head, and I'd want to just do a full Jurassic Park themed dessert setup like they did. I think doing something like strip related of all the hotels in our skyline would be badass, like to see them fashion those things, or like ancient temples, or just some wild, I don't know, like let me see a sphinx, made out of dessert something. And as we're talking about this, obviously my mouth is watering, and now I need to know where to go around town for more sweets. MJ, you were so excited for this one, so we got to start with you, all right? What's your favorite bakery in Las Vegas? But also, too, to like set the table for the folks at home so they can kind of like grade your tastes and see if it's on track with them. Like, what are your desserts, your pastries that you're looking for, and where do you go to get them?
First of all, my favorite bakery is my kitchen because I bake up a storm.
Wow.
Really? Okay.
I don't want to be cocky, but I know there's some people listening to this that have begged me for cookies over and over again. So you know who you are, and you can't.
That's hilarious. Let them know.
But I don't know. We have so many good, like, I feel like it's such a cliche answer, but Freed's, I love having Freed's around, and I love having it downtown because like I always just want like a little sweet treat when I'm walking downtown, and I love being able to pop in there. And so they have they have a lot of good selections.
Freed's is legit. I mean,
it is, yeah.
I go to Allegiant Stadium a lot for the Raiders games and stuff for my other business, and Freed's does all the desserts, and it's always a ridiculous presentation.
It is,
it's like its own mini World Cup presentation of pastries.
I mean, Freeze is wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. It's like top notch. But, for those of us who are more on the budget part of it.
You're not trying to drop $100 on some sweets.
Exactly.
Where are your priorities at? Man? Come on.
Just going to the La Bonita grocery store. They have great, Pastri. I like how you both just at the same time. Yeah. You know what's so funny is that how meaning the Southern Nevada area has changed so drastically. It used to be like this bargain basement buffet place, right?
That's actually a really good point. Yeah.
And now it's become like this foodie destination, and now they're having more and more competitions. Like earlier this year, they also had a pizza competition that brought people in from all over the world to make different pizzas. And now we're seeing, the pastry competition going on. I mean, it's crazy.
It is wild just to see the different layers of food competitions and all that stuff. For me, MJ, like you, so you said you like walking around downtown and snagging, a pastry and things like that as you're cruising around. Mine is always like, because I'm not a big, like, let me go get just a pastry. Like, I'm not like, I'm going to drive across town for this pastry. But it always happens when I go to a damn coffee shop and I see the pastry sitting there screaming at me. And I'm like, I don't need this. I don't need this. And then what do? I end up with a coffee and a pastry. Always. So a lot of mine are coffee shops, but one that isn't is Senza. They're actually a gluten-free bakery near Trop and Fort Apache. And they're insane. My girlfriend's gluten dairy free, so like we got to worry about that a lot of times when we go. And that's one of the few places that has stuff that she can have. And I got like this one wasn't dairy free, but it was a cheesecake from there. Woo! Insane. You would have no idea that it was gluten free. Wild. But also too, Coffee Class, their Pop-Tarts are next level. They have some that are gluten and dairy free. They have some that aren't, and they're very different. And I actually prefer the gluten-free ones, surprisingly. But theirs are bomb. And then Public Us, literally, like I said, that's a coffee shop. Every time I go into it, that entire spread of desserts is just screaming at me. I always end up with something, and I particularly love their croissants.
Have you done Bar Bohem?
I want to go so bad, but the line's so long.
Bohem has been having on the third Saturday, like the pastry pop-up, and I went in July, and ordered probably way too much than I needed as a single person, but we won't talk about that. But so many good options.
That's a whole other issue.
Yeah, that's a whole issue. It's fine. We all have our
If you need a
vices.
line, buddy, I got you, dude.
And I actually got there later, so I missed the line. I did miss a few options I wanted to try, but there's still some other great options.
How cleaned out was it to butt in, just out of curiosity? Like, was it pretty sparse?
There was still, I think, a good selection, but
Okay.
like their croissants, they didn't have as many croissants. Actually, I picked up some focaccia that they had there too. That was so
That's
delicious.
really
And
good. Focaccia.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna make a meal to go with it, and I just kept eating like a little bit, like
Yeah.
through-
Famous last
It's
words,
like,
yeah.
Yes,
They're
like, oh,
there's the meal.
yes, there's the meal. But I highly recommend it. You get to taste some phenomenal pastries. So, but it was such a good pop up. I definitely want to go back. I'm gonna go back when it's not 1,000 degrees outside. So like hopefully like in the September will be more manageable. Definitely October, and make a whole morning of it. I'll hit you up. We'll be line buddies.
You gotta let me know. Yeah, dude. I'm all for it. Because like I said, I've been wanting to go, but I'm like, I can't brave that line. Like, so I'm with you. Like if we can show up a little later, I'm there for it, and maybe get in quicker and hopefully still get some goodies. I'm so down for that. Also too, just as an aside, Petite Bohem's going to start doing late night food. Major win.
Wow.
I'm so stoked for that. Yeah, that's something we've been missing down in the Arts District. But before we get off track and start talking about all the different food options downtown, we got to wrap this up. So thank you guys so much for this today. This was awesome. Now I need to go get a couple croissants.
Do it. Do it. Thanks so much for having me.
See you at the pastry shop.
Yes.
Ooh,
Yes.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our free morning newsletter as well. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm/Las Vegas. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Until then, though, take care.